what is setting it apart from that? And like, what flaws do those currencies have that Dash doesn't, in your mind, at least?
Yeah. So I like to make a couple things clear. First off, I'm going to try to not, talk smack about any of these things because
man, come on, give me some controversy.
I will. I'll give you some, but I'm just saying I like the space in general, and I use what I think is the best option. And if I could not use that option, I would probably use one of the others. So it's not like they're all trash, this one's good. It's like, well, there's a competition, and this is one I like the best. And then also, I should point out that if there was a better option, I would be using that today. So because it's not just, oh, I get to go swipey with my card all the time, or tap and pay or whatever, like in more civilized parts of the world in here. And I just get to do that and then just like talk, basically shit post on Twitter about how I like the best digital cash in the world. But this affects my life in a very real way. So I pick what works, the best tool for the job in my view. And I mean, I know others similar to me who are unbanked who kind of do this. And that's just the kind of the preface behind the whole thing. But the entire reason why any of these coins exist, and it goes back to a governance failure on the part of Bitcoin, where Bitcoin had a fork in the road, which, is kind of a sort of pun intended at that point, but it hit a fork in the road where the plan all along, according to the Bitcoin white paper and Satoshi himself, etc., was to scale on-chain to basically make the blocks bigger, make more transactions able to come through, and just that's how it expands to feed the entire world, to have the entire world be able to use it. And at some point, there became a difference of opinion where you have some people saying, well, no, if you do that, not everyone will be able to afford to run a node, and then they will have to rely on someone else to run a node. And we don't think this is good for decentralization. So we have to not scale on chain and scale on off-chain solutions. And so there was, because of this disagreement, rather than just moving forward with one or the other, this disagreement became like a political war where people were arguing over this kind of stuff. And eventually, I don't have specific data to this effect, but I believe the minority viewpoint won out through a cleverly constructed campaign. And the majority viewpoint, which is, let's actually increase the block size, did not win, and then ended up having to split off into a minority fork. And so the inability to create that decision is what created a problem. And that's one of the things that really kept me feeling a lot better to be using Dash, is because I know that if there's a problem at some point, the network holders can be put to a vote, can be polled and say, which way do you want to go? And that's what happened in 2016 while this was all boiling over. The Dash community put together a question: should Dash pursue on-chain scaling or should it pursue off-chain scaling? And on-chain won by a landslide, and then there we're at. And so there are no persistent governance questions in Dash today because they're resolved by a vote. And a vote that you can verify, a vote of the majority of people or the majority of the coin supplies and holders of the coin supply. And so, and of course, enforced by the miners as well, because Dash has a miner and masternode system. And so you can basically be sure that whatever happens is the will of the network as a whole. You can come together as a conclusion. And so I don't really believe in the future of a coin that doesn't have this. And it doesn't have some sort of explicit governance mechanism like that, because that's the entire reason we ran into that problem with Bitcoin. Then Bitcoin Cash split off. And at some point, it was the prime contender of, oh, we're like Bitcoin. If it didn't have these people that won, if the right people won, this is what it is. And then at some point, there was a disagreement with some changes being proposed with Bitcoin Cash. And then that caused a split off into Bitcoin SV. And so then it's like, okay, we couldn't come to a conclusion, so you split up. And then after that, there was a further disagreement, and then people split off from Bitcoin Cash into eCash. And so the existence of all these means that there's a problem, right? There's a problem where you can't imagine if every single time you had a relationship squabble that was more than just extremely minor, there was, then the only way to resolve it was just to end the relationship. Or imagine if you had a business disagreement that was, it wasn't just like one small thing, but it was, I really think we should do this. I think we should do that. We can't agree, dissolve the business, split into two. Like, there's got to be a better way of making decisions, because at some point you'd rather stay together and have the wrong decision, according to you, win out than you would just split it. And so none of those main coins have that. It have a governance system. Now, in the case of eCash, it's kind of run. There is I believe they have some sort of a governance council type thing, but it's basically Amar Zache, the creator, runs the development of it. And it's like, because that guy's in charge, you don't really need governance decisions. But then again, that introduces a centralization risk and all the problems that people don't like about cryptocurrency. So I will put that one as a caveat. So that's the number one reason why I believe Dash is better or more reliable as a digital cash than all these other projects. Now, so for example, you have projects like Decred, which also have a governance mechanism. But as far as I know, no one's buying anything with Decred. Like, no one's trying to really use it as a money. I definitely could not live off of Decred. That's for sure. And so it's like things like that. So the number one, governance. The number two thing, I believe only Dash has really solved, as far as actually, decentralized, scarce, etc., digital currencies, has solved instant transactions. Because in under 2 seconds, a Dash transaction is finalized. You can't say that about Bitcoin Cash. You can't say that about Bitcoin SV. You can't say that about eCash right now. I mean, I think they're working on some like dual Avalanche Nakamoto consensus thing where you could technically see that, but I can't comment too much on that because it doesn't exist yet. But right now, the instant transactions, and also irreversible blocks. Once a block's in, because of the decentralized consensus mechanism used by the masternodes, there's this cool thing called chain locks, which basically, after a block gets in, the masternodes lock in and make that block permanent. And so it's basically one of the biggest attack vectors of proof of work, of mined cryptocurrencies. People don't know this, but no Bitcoin transaction is permanent. Practically speaking, they can be. But so if I send you, let's just say, $1 million worth of Bitcoin, just because I'm a nice guy and I happen to be loaded, which don't take that for fact, I'm nowhere near that loaded. So if I sent you that, after a few 6 or so blocks or an hour or a couple hours confirmations, you could probably consider that to be relatively permanent. However, let's just say in a month's time, someone spins up mining machines and is able to attack the network because they get the majority of hash rate and is able to maintain it over that amount of time. They could theoretically reverse the whole chain, right? Everything. They could. Any transaction can be temporary if it can be reversed by a 51% attack, and that's exactly what's happened. Bitcoin SV has experienced this a few times recently. I believe Firo privacy project has experienced that as well. Right before they implemented a protection against that, Horizon, when it was called Zencash, experienced one of those. Like, Verge, the list goes on. And so that's one of the reasons why I think that Dash has this specific system. Now, Bitcoin Cash, I believe, has some sort of a checkpoint system. I have to actually get this exactly straight, but there might be something where blocks get permanent after every 10 or so blocks or something. But it's not done in a decentralized manner where you have, of all the holders of the network, of the 4,600 masternodes out there, you have to have like a quorum of those is selected, and then they put their stamp on it at random, and it makes it extremely difficult and expensive to attack the network. You'd have to own over half of Dash's entire supply. And so that's just like, in addition to owning half of the mining, at that point you are Dash. You're not attacking, you're attacking yourself, right? Whereas It's not the same with others. All the Bitcoin forks, don't have this kind of issue. And so, again, eCash, there's a lot of promised things in eCash right now. So I don't want to comment on what they might come up with in the future, but that's the case with them right now as well. And so security, like instant transaction security and all that, really works out. And I'll mention something that doesn't quite exist yet, which I always get burned when I mention this kind of thing. There was this project conceptualized in 2015. Honestly started work on it somewhere 2018, 2019, and is finally slated to come out any month now, which was codenamed Evolution. It's been renamed to Dash Platform. Hopefully going to be named something better, but basically an actual usable system for cryptocurrencies, right? Where I'm not sending you if I send you some money, it's not going to be to XY7Z, whatever the long address. I send it to your username. And you can send back to username, and we can friend each other on the blockchain. We can create a contact list and send repeat payments back and forth. Have a social payments, actual like real social payments, but not trusting any centralized third parties. That's built into the network itself. And that has been live on testnet for about a year now, I believe. I have I have the testnet wallet that has like the fake testnet coins on Dash that I've been using pretty much all year, just trying it out. It works great. It's just not with real Dash yet. But when that happens, that'll be something that really puts it ahead of other things. There is such a thing, similar sort of, that's been built on Bitcoin SV in the form of hand cash and paymail and things like that. But that's not in any way, decentralized or social in the same way. So that's another thing. Remember, I mentioned that the digital cash space has a relatively little serious competition today. It's the usability and username space as far as the protocol level is concerned is very barren. Like you have .eth usernames, but they're extremely, simplistic. You have, FIO has some project like that too, but they're all very simplistic. And honestly, the demand for it isn't there yet. And the thing that has nothing to do with specifically Dash, but is extremely important, is practical usability is in adoption. Because if I was going to spend crypto in my daily life and it wasn't Dash, I could get like halfway there, maybe 2/3 of where I am today if I use Bitcoin Cash. If I use the other ones, I could get nowhere. And maybe I would put Lightning Network close to on par with Bitcoin Cash on that thing. But because of the usability bumps along the way, it would be a hardship. I don't know if I could continue to live the way I am. So because of that, so there's an interesting app that was released this year called Dash Direct, which lets anyone right now in the US spend Dash at 155,000 plus merchants and save an average of 5% on all of that, all without releasing custody of your funds and without KYC, without giving your identity, just real digital cash. So like, for example, I can go down at the Best Buy and get like an SD card, pay Dash at the counter, and it works, and I save a few percent. And then there you go. Just that simple. And that has made it super easy. I was already dealing with this before, but now that this exists, it's made it really easy for people who aren't extremely, well-versed in the living on crypto life. It's made it a lot easier for those kinds of people to be able to do that. And that combined with a few other different services that accept it just makes it so much easier.
Because I guess that's where everything becomes. That's when the dream of crypto being the day-to-day payment tool becomes reality, is when it becomes that simple. And for people, you have your app and your username, and that's all you need. Like, go. You don't need to think about like, the wallet keys and all the complicated stuff. Basically, that's where it's gonna cross over, and that's what a lot of people are waiting for. They're waiting for that sort of exponential growth as it becomes more widely adopted. Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment for us in the comments below. Let me know what you thought and if you'd like to see more of this from the show. Thank you, and we'll see you again next time.